Hello and welcome to the Lakeshore Records Podcast, On Cue With. I'm your host, Alon Levitin, and for today's episode, I had the great pleasure of speaking with the immensely talented, award-winning composer, Amelia Warner. We discussed how Amelia's sweeping melodies are burned into my psyche forever, the pros and cons of torturing our kids with piano lessons, Amelia's storytelling appetite for the classic, otherworldly, mysterious, strange, and the beautiful, the brilliance of Randy Newman and Rachel Portman, how to properly capture the sound of love, mischief, and a busy mind, Amelia's minimalist, anthemic, subtractive approach to melody, how to be a composer if you're not classically trained, the pitfalls of performance anxiety, the devastating simplicity of greats such as Johann Johannson and Max Richter, how to tap into the sonic DNA of a film, composing for comedy and conceptualizing dialogue as rhythm, music as a means to articulate that which can't be spoken, and so much more. Amelia Warner's stunning scores for Mr. Malcolm's List and Wild Mountain Thyme are out now worldwide via Lakeshore Records. Welcome, Amelia. Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on all the success. Your score is phenomenal. I have so much to dive into with you. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm really good. Thank you for that introduction.
Of course. So I have a confession to make to you.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of an sort of overly analytical musician. I have a sense of humor, but I can generally be stoic about my own emotions. And your music cuts through all my bullshit.
Oh my
and
God.
Makes these annoying tears well up. I feel like my life is like a process of just allowing those tears to run their course. But I'm just very curious, your background with music, what your first musical memories are, and what is your general approach to music, or your thoughts about what is music? I know that's a big question.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge question. I think music is many, many things. But I suppose like the music that I write, not necessarily the music I like, but just the music that I write tends to be very emotional and tends to be a way of expressing things that I can't say or things that are just out of reach. And I find music is my way of doing that, or my way of accessing like those parts of ourselves that like I can't really articulate. I guess I kind of internalize a lot emotionally. So for me, music's like this amazing outlet and a way of, exploring emotion, I suppose. But I think music is everything, it's comfort, it's joy, it's grief, it's like euphoria, it's absolutely everything.
How did you get into music? I mean, I know that you had a background as an actor.
Yeah.
What's the transition like from that world into music? Is it just a decision?
Yeah, it was a decision. I kind of took it in a slightly meandery, slow way. It was like a number of decisions, I suppose. I knew I didn't want to act, and that was something that I was kind of really fortunate that I had opportunities when I was young to get into acting, and I was really lucky, and I had some breaks early on. So I suddenly was an actress, and it wasn't really what I'd chosen, or it wasn't, I certainly didn't, I don't feel like I made this decision to act, but I knew that I wanted to be involved in films, and I knew I wanted to be involved in storytelling in some way. And I suppose music had always been my passion. At school, at home, that's what I was obsessed with, music, and I played music, but I was self-taught, so I kind of taught myself, and then started to have formal lessons and really struggled. And I think that, my brain didn't work that way, and I couldn't learn the way I was meant to learn. And so music, which had been my favorite thing, actually became something I really struggled with. So I kind of stopped playing everything. And then and then just started playing again when I was a bit older, and again just did it my own way and played my own stuff and played by ear. So if I hear something, I can play it, and it takes me a minute, but I can work it out. And I play everything from kind of memory, and I can't really read music very well. It takes me forever to read music. I'm a very slow reader. So because of that, I think I just eliminated, like, the idea of having a career in music was kind of almost just not an option. I was like, oh, well, I guess I can't do that because I can't do I'm not classically trained and my brain won't work that way. So I guess that's just not going to be what I do. But I never stopped making music and writing music. And then I think what changed for me was when the software came out on Apple, and like Logic and GarageBand came out, and then suddenly I was able to write music again, but write music for, for strings, write different arrangements, different parts, and put it all together. And it was just really exciting. But it was more of a hobby. And then just a couple of things happened where I wrote some music for a friend who was doing a short film. I wrote music for a couple of commercials, and seeing music to picture and writing to picture, something just really clicked. And I just felt like, oh, this is the thing, this is the thing that makes sense of what I can do. And suddenly it just, for me, it clicked. And then that's when I kind of decided to pursue it.
I believe you have referred to it as functional music in the past.
Yes. Yeah.
How would you characterize, because you've written solo for yourself,
yeah.
For the world. I don't know how do you characterize when you're writing for yourself versus something that's functional, and is that an entirely different process? There's obviously collaboration.
Yeah. I mean, I personally find writing music that needs to be written for a reason, for a function, a lot, not easier, but I'd just say more straightforward. I find I have way more motivation to do that because it's existing for a reason. I can see the effect it's having on something. It's being asked to be put there. I'm not so great at self-motivating. So if there's no reason for the music to exist, I sometimes struggle to create it. But when there's an actual space for that music that needs to be there, I love having that space to fill.
Something that I find to be very interesting about when I heard you in a previous interview talking about functional music, as your music relates to me personally, completely outside of the function. Case in point being Wild Mountain Thyme.
Oh yeah.
So, which I adore, and the entire premise, and I feel like we can not worry about spoilers because people have seen it.
Yes.
I loved the film. I was so glad that we were able to put out the soundtrack, which you crushed. And just the entire, I don't know, courage, I might call it, to commit to the insanity of the premise, which I really personally appreciate. I don't mean to go on a monologue here, but I do really appreciate the idea of, like, we all walk around with certain neuroses that really do inform our daily lives. And then, the big reveal at the end is just incredible. And this particular piece, Left with Two Gates, it's one of these sweeping themes. It sort of makes a nod to, to my ear, the melody of Wild Mountain Thyme.
Yeah.
And it's just this piece that would come to mind every time I'd be watering our garden every single week without fail. And I'd never consciously thought of it, but it was just interesting, the idea that you are somewhere all the way across the earth making this thing for this film, for this specific function. And now every week some stranger is having it summoned to the point where I feel like I'm going to look back on all the times where I was gardening and having this earworm.
I love that.
Really, thank you for that, because it's just this gift that you sort of surrender to a film or to a process, but then it takes on its own life outside of it.
Yeah. I love that. That's great.